Wisdom Exchange TV. My name is Suzanne F Stevens, host and co-producer of Wisdom Exchange TV. Today we're in Ottawa, Canada, with Her Excellency Florence Zano Chideya. She's the Ambassador of Zimbabwe in Canada. You have a lot of history. I mean, you've been a civil servant for 20 years, correct?
Yes.
But you have another part to you. There's a lot to you and what got you to this role. I just kind of sort of want to start a little bit with, you were a nurse?
Yes.
Practicing nurse.
Yes.
You also own a tour company.
Yes, I do.
Now, you were saying to me earlier that you own it, but when this is job number one, therefore it'll wait for you someday down the road, and you're the ambassador. What was the catalyst to get into politics in the first place, coming particularly from entrepreneurial and from a nurse? I mean, how did you get here?
As you know, the history of my country, Southern Africa, was very much under apartheid, dualized economies, and so this is how one started. Most of us started like that.
Mm-hmm.
But over and above that, if you had your ambitions, of course, nothing could stop you. And so that's how I ended up undertaking a degree in business management, a postgraduate diploma in public policy, public administration, and that's how I ended up scanning the various ministries in my country, which cumulatively end up being more than 20 years. So spanning from industry and commerce, transport, foreign affairs, and now we're here.
But you make a comment about your ambitions. Tell me more about those, and when did you have that ambition, particularly in the political arena?
For me, it happened when I was doing my undergraduate studies. I think coming from my country, the way it was set up, it didn't give you very much chance of not wanting to be involved. So one found themselves somehow involved in being interested in politics.
You know, your husband was in politics as well, and actually sat in the chair you are in today.
Yes.
And I would suggest that, there's not a lot of husband and wives that have held that same position as far as an ambassador for our country.
Yes.
Now, did you meet him in the political arena?
I actually met him when we were students in New York, in Buffalo. When we both finished university education, we went home. And at that time, he was an academician. And I was pursuing my professional career. And slowly, yes, we made the transition. I made the transition.
As the ambassador, and therefore a leader,
yes,
what would be one of your biggest challenges, personally or professionally, in this role?
As an ambassador, first of all, it is a big honor for my country to represent my country at this level. But what it is that you direct the activities of your country in a foreign country. And so that in itself is a challenge. And what you're trying to do is to bring two countries together.
In the spirit of lifting those relationships, let's say I am from Zimbabwe and I want to do business in Canada. Could you tell me 3 things that I really need to know about Canadians in order to do culturally, that in order to do business in Canada?
Well, first of all, it depends on the type of business you want to be involved in, because some sectors are specific. Mm-hmm. They have specific requirements. For example, if you're going to have business dealings in food and agricultural products, the requirements are very different from whether you're selling in hardware or whether you're sending chemicals, for example. So they're all different requirements. So one would have to be sector specific.
Let's take it from a culture perspective, though, because culture isn't necessarily sector specific. So even from you've been in Canada for 8 years.
Yes.
I'm guessing, and being to Zimbabwe, I would suggest, I didn't do business in Zimbabwe, but so I would imagine doing business here would be quite different than doing it at home, just from the culture of how we do things in comparison to how you may do them. Not better, not worse, just different.
And there's also the law of reciprocity, especially in diplomacy. So whatever Zimbabwe does to Canada, Canada does to Zimbabwe. And that may not be the same as what Zimbabwe does. For example, dealings have with Rwanda, for example, or any other European country. The relationships are all different. That's why it is bilateral.
If you could sort of give us an idea of some of the challenges for women to get into politics, particularly in the context of the country in which you work.
When you look at politics, it's like a go-get, I think, environment. And so our socialization is such that the go-get attitude is something that we're being encouraged. We're used to community development, come up together, as it were. But when you come up to the tertiary levels, you would find that the numbers of women are not as high as men. And so politics is another one of those fields where women don't readily, they contribute a lot. But maybe when it comes to voting for women, I think we still need to come.
You just focused on that I find extremely interesting, is voting for women.
Yes.
It's not only the women stepping up, but it's actually having the confidence to vote for the women to
Yes.
lead.
Yes, exactly. I think we still have big challenges, and we have to encourage each other to how to celebrate women, how to notice the potential in women. And it may be that what someone needs is just a little bit of an edge, just a little bit of an edge. And they can contribute a lot more to what is required. But they need that edge. And we need, as women, to see the potential.
How many women do you know at the percentage or approximation of how many women are in politics in Zimbabwe?
As you know, we just had our elections in July, end of July, and we have a new constitution, we have a new parliament, it's the 8th parliament. And so it's the highest level of women right now in politics, because we were aiming for 50-50, but I think we managed to get 40%.
That high?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much.
That's impressive.
Yes.
Maybe someday Canada will follow.
Yes.
So what was it before the election?
Oh, it was less than half that.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was a huge jump.
Yes.
Now why? Do you know why that is?
Well, government made, the SADC protocol by the gender barometer. It has been recommending 50-50. And the AU, the gender barometer, was recommending 30%. So we're over 30%. So in our constitution, I think even for the next 10 years, we have a provision for affirmative seats. And then after that, that will fall away.
Being in Ottawa, I had an opportunity to speak with another ambassador from another African country.
Yes.
And both countries are promoting 50%. A lot of countries strive for 30 because that was a huge deal at
Yes.
one point in time.
Yes.
But to see African countries say we need more representation at the top levels with women, I think is such a huge message to the rest of the world.
Yes, well, we have more to do, I believe, in terms of the poverty levels which we have, and the Millennium Development Goal number 3, as you know, is poverty alleviation. And it's not going to happen unless you go for women, along with men, of course, but we need to push more women.
What advice or insight could you give to women that want to enter into politics?
Get in there. Don't stay back. You must lobby, you must participate, you must show your interest. You must show that you are good. You must show that you have what it takes.
It sounds like you're saying not only show it, but make sure people know it.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
If you just go out there with everybody, that may not achieve results. But you have to have your own strategy. But it may actually mean designing your own information sheet and having people putting it under the doors. Even now we have the e-commerce, we have the social media. Those are the tools that we have now.
And keeping in mind that our audience is pretty vast that watches Wisdom Exchange TV. So
Yes.
with that, in Zimbabwe, people have access to all those tools.
Yes.
They're not blocked in any
No.
capacity. So they're open to use those tools.
Yes.
And far as from a media perspective, is that open as well, or in Zimbabwe?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's
yes.
open as
Yes.
well.
But now, especially for social media, so it's up to you
Mm-hmm.
how you want to strategize your for example, your campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it can be done.
Well, that's great advice. It's first you have to have the passion.
Yes.
And I guess in your day, when you started pursuing this, there was a lot to be passionate about.
Yes.
Now, are you finding the youth of today? I mean, I know you haven't been there a lot lately, but are they as passionate about their country and where they see it?
Yeah, I think we are in transition. As a young country, we've only been independent for 33 years. So I think we are going through these phases where, first of all, where's your blood and mother coming from? And then, okay, now I have a job. And then, okay, what do my children feed on? And so your career. And so I think it is going in phases. But the youth of today, they have this advantage also of the internet and the social media. They are able really to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and to express themselves. I see that, there is that energy also.
You're talking about, too, that women and what they need to do, and I guess that would apply to men, of course, as well.
Yes.
Have you ever seen certain characteristics that women have that could be used for them or against them in the political arena?
I think because politics really is the survival of the fittest. So that doesn't matter who you are. We have women leaders now who are surviving in this environment. For example, the Angela Merkels of this world, the Thatchers of this world, those women, they survived, in a very tough environment, but they did it. So I think you do have, even in Canada here, we have 5 premiers, women premiers, which is, I think, a record.
It is.
For now. They're surviving in this environment. And so there's a time when you have to stop thinking that you are a woman. I think you have to have a tough stomach and decide what you are going to have and go for that and develop leadership attributes. If you're a leader, you're always going to see opportunity. So it doesn't matter what sex you are. If you're a leader, you see what is possible.
Now, when you got into politics, and you may or may not remember this, did you have any preconceived ideas of what that would look like?
Maybe I felt that my environment was restrictive and I wanted to say something. I wanted to contribute. In fact, when we were students, I remember that there was a movement here in North America looking for people who were saying, can you explain to us what is wrong with you? What's happening in your country? I remember being invited to go to the studios to explain what the issue was. And we had our leaders who had gone out into the struggle to fight for independence, to talk with the Europeans, especially Britain, and people everywhere in North America and East. And we were like the last 2 countries in the African continent to be independent.
Trade, that experience is an obvious one as an ambassador.
Yes.
And the tourism,
Yes.
which is really a good bonus, I would imagine, having that. Which, for listeners, it's important to have another background as well, too, to help you
Yes.
leverage in that position.
I think as a public servant, one can appreciate any role they're put in. And of course, it requires a little bit of background of all those sectors. It does help a lot. For example, if you understand tourism, you can link it with your job. If you understand trade, which has been my background from 1983 to 1990 and beyond. So you can link your position with those different sectors.
The most significant impact that you've had to date?
Well, I think that as a Dean of the African Diplomat, I think we have really made some inroads in terms of the visibility of Africa in Canada. I think that has been quite significant.
And you know, it's interesting because I feel that, but now I'm very involved with Africa.
Yes.
But just even reading the newspapers and seeing so much about Africa, and sometimes, you know, unfortunately in the West, we receive the bad stuff.
Yes.
And Wisdom Exchange has got all the good stuff because, like women like yourself, do you find that challenging when in a lot of the West, when we hear of Africa, we often are exposed just to the negative thing. So how do you, in your role, deal with that emotionally or from a political standpoint to quiet down the negative and bring up what Africa, in particular in Zimbabwe, is doing well?
It's been a big challenge really for not only Zimbabwe but for all of us. But more so for Zimbabwe, as you know. Being here, that is our job. To make sure we douse those fires and we let people have information as much as we can. And I myself have gone to Zimbabwe with various Canadians, different groups, and just that alone enables somebody to come and speak about the country. It's not necessarily myself, it does a lot to educate Canadians on what the country is like, and it's not an overnight miracle either. It takes years to turn down the corner to change people's minds and perceptions. The scribes like yourselves, you know, you're quick to have information out there before checking. A lot of them do that. So by the time you try to say, oh, you know what, things are not exactly the way it's reported, now who's going to look at that? You know, someone has already gone ahead of you. But like I said, that is really our job, because Africa, you've traveled in 54 countries. It is not 10 countries, 54 countries. In each country, we have the diversity, but there's commonality with our diversity, which makes us unique. And we are the biggest continent in the whole world, and with a population, you know, close to 1 billion, the challenges, yes, there.
If I was to think, why did we start Wisdom Exchange TV? And I'm going to ask you this question shortly. The one number reason was to demonstrate that Africa is a place to invest in, and women are the best investment. One woman will impact thousands and thousands of people if she has what you're talking about, is that drive.
Yes.
So my question to you is, when you started down this journey, what was the one thing that you wanted to achieve?
I want us to be business partners, our countries, Zimbabwe and Canada, invest in improve business opportunities.
Let's go back 20 years ago. What was the motivation at that time to pursue? What would you, going into civil service, say, you know, I wanted to go into civil service because I want to achieve this one thing?
Civil service for me, because of my bias in business and commerce, I wanted to service industry as a civil servant. And I see that bias carried through here.
So you're achieving exactly what you set out to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
If you could attribute your success to one thing, what would that be? It could be a part of your personality. It could be something that happened to you or for you.
I think the ability to be able to work with everybody. I think the inclusive nature of my character, I think would make it appropriate that I'm able to relate.
To date, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of your career?
Public service, working with the public.
And what would be the most challenging aspect of your career?
I'm trying to make people understand that my country is good, you can invest in it, that people are nice, they're pleasant, they're very comfortable with everybody, welcoming to foreigners, and live well amongst themselves.
Well, I felt very welcomed when I was in Zimbabwe. Both my husband and I felt very, very welcomed.
Thank you.
And at the time, I want to share that quick story with you because it's sort of a neat one. For me, it was different. But at the time when we were in your capital, we were not, I think there was not many white people.
Okay.
And I was amazed that nobody noticed that. And I thought that was fantastic.
Okay.
That we're just human beings, you know, at the end of the day, and everyone's going about their business. And that felt welcoming to me rather than we look odd because there was only 5 of us.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a really neat experience. So I wanted to share that with you. What would have been the most significant thing that happened to you or for you that helped you achieve your career accomplishments? So less of an attitude, but was there anything that happened to you or for you?
Well, I think meeting the right people with the right mind who are on the same wavelength. Yeah.
On a personal note, what would be the most significant decision you have made in your career?
To agree to be an ambassador.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I had already lived in North America. I had already lived in England. When you felt, oh, okay, we are now settling down. So yeah, it was an important decision for me and my family, actually.
If I'm to understand, too, just the way things have worked out, because your husband was an ambassador,
Yes.
and then you went back home,
Yes.
when you came back this time, it was because you were asked to be the ambassador.
Yes, my husband had retired.
Now, what does success mean to you?
Success means, for me, I think inner joy that I'm able to carry on my mandate. I'm able to say year by year, this is what we have achieved. And it's not like I said, an overnight thing.
Mm-hmm. There is one thing I have learned about African women, and this is a general statement, but patience is something you harness, and I respect so much.
You have to have it.
Yeah. How would you define leadership?
A leader is somebody who gets the results that they set out for, no matter what. Whatever obstacles, they should work around them so that at the end of the day, if they have targets to say this is what we need to achieve them. You cannot take no for an answer. You don't have the luxury to say, I will do something tomorrow which must be done today, which must be done now.
If you were to give 3 leadership strategies or suggestions to somebody that leads a project in politics, what would that be?
Well, I would say strategize. You must have your timelines. You must collaborate. You must delegate also. And delegate and still look over some kind of micromanaging. Because you can delegate and then it's just out there. So you do need some consensus building. You agree on how you're going to make the project evolve.
What would you like your leadership legacy to be?
Well, I'd like for them to think that in terms of leadership, that I was able to harness all the opinion that I worked together well with everybody.
Let's look outside of what you are doing here, and if there was some one thing that you would love to do that you have never done, I don't care what it is, the world's your oyster, what would that be?
Bungee jumping.
Yeah? Good for you. Good for you. I know a bridge.
No, I'm kidding. I think whitewater rafting is more doable.
Now, would you like to go whitewater rafting?
That would make more sense to me. I would enjoy that.
Now, I know you have 2 children, and one of them's a daughter, and I know she's quite a bit older now.
Yes.
But if she was 10 years old today, so with all the knowledge you've acquired over your life, what advice would you give to her?
Okay, there's several things I could tell her. That you have to go and get what you want. No one is waiting to give you. Wherever, I think we were talking about affirmative action, I would not wait for that. I would say you must be your person, you must not be afraid, and you must not wait for people to do things for you. You must be independent, you must earn your own keep. So nothing to be afraid of. Go out there, you want to be a leader, not a follower. So you start now looking for opportunities.
What do you wish you were told at 10 years old?
Yeah, that the world it's a jungle out there. Because I think at 10, in my time, we were very, very protected. Didn't know too much about anything.
What are your words of wisdom to impart as your final words to African women?
Oh my goodness, I have many words of wisdom. One is, okay, why don't we celebrate other women? Why don't we look for what is good in other women? And at some point you have to stop thinking of yourself as a woman. This is how you arrived, and why don't we embrace all the genders? Because women by themselves cannot achieve everything they want. We need men to work with us. So it ceases to be important what your sex is like.
Absolutely.
But your brain becomes more important. So the physical part we are God given, the brain we must develop.
Great advice. Thank you very, very much. What an absolute honor to actually be in my backyard, but and welcoming you, although Ottawa is now your backyard. And thank you for sharing your insights with us on Wisdom Exchange TV. And there's several things you had said that were sparking my words of wisdom. But I'm going to actually, the last piece you said is so important. Is, there's a lot of talk right now in at least in Canada about being a feminist and what that looks like in the United States. What does that look like? And I often say, I'm not a feminist, I'm not a menist, I'm an individualist. But an individualist that celebrates working with others to collaborate for success and to empower us all. So I think you're using the mind. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, as long as you use it with heart. So thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you so much.